Eyewitness News is next, and coming up tonight, 5 Democrats try to make a name for themselves. Tonight, they try to score points with voters during a live debate just 1 month before the important New Hampshire primary. You're going to hear their views on the economy. Also, the recent bias attacks that have plagued New York City bring out residents who want to put a stop to crimes of hate.
Also coming up just ahead, why some New Yorkers are bearing tonight's bitter cold to gather in front of City Hall. It's all to prove a point. And what's everyone looking at? It's a painting of President George Bush that is rubbing some people the wrong way. Really. Those stories, and we'll find out if the morning rush hour is going to be messed up by snow.
That's right. It's all next on Eyewitness News.
This is Channel 7 Eyewitness News with Jay Scott and Rolonda Watts. Marc Stevens with sports. Bill Evans with the exclusive AccuWeather forecast and the Eyewitness News team. Now, Eyewitness News.
Good evening, I'm Jay Scott, and here's what's happening. 1 month to go before the presidential primaries in New Hampshire, and a victory there on February 18th could give a Democrat the kind of boost needed for a very successful campaign. And tonight, the 5 major Democratic candidates are trying to score points in a debate there. It comes on a night when a new poll shows if voters had to choose tomorrow, 29% would choose Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton, 17% for former Massachusetts Senator Paul Tsongas, 16% for Nebraska Senator Bob Kerrey. Jerry Brown and Tom Harkin finish well behind, and 26% are still undecided. And that is the backdrop for tonight's debate.
I agree with Paul over the long run.
I agree with Paul Tsongas on this.
I quite agree with you, Governor.
They agree.
I'll tell you, you're skating on thin ice.
Governor, why didn't you fight to have that as one of the education?
They disagree, and they talked about the issues that most Americans are talking about on the economy.
A flat tax on personal income with unadjusted gross income and on business value added.
Jerry Brown stuck to his anti-establishment theme.
We have a government down there in Washington. It's corrupted.
The others were a bit more conservative.
I would present a bill to Congress to cut middle-class taxes and make up for it with an increase in taxes on the wealthy who are not presently paying their fair share.
Well, the first thing you'd have to do as president is to extend unemployment benefits.
Middle-class tax reduction will stimulate the economy. Secondly, we'll have tax credit in order to bring real investment into plant and equipment. And third, we're going to get banking capital into our banking system so our banks can start making loans again to small businesses.
You have to give our companies venture capital, and you have to give them equity capital.
On crime, the candidates agree the problem is drug-based and that it is time to crack down. But in response to a poll showing 65% of those questions support the death penalty, they disagree.
I think capital punishment's appropriate, and I think no parole's appropriate for sex offenders.
I support capital punishment.
You, Governor Brown?
No, I'm against capital punishment. I don't want a world where we're killing people to solve problems.
I'm opposed to capital punishment. I have never seen any credible evidence to show that it's any kind of a deterrent to crime.
I'm in favor of capital punishment for crimes against society.
And front-runner Bill Clinton, under fire this week for alleged philandering, once again denounced the charges and blamed the Republican Party.
Answer negative ads, that I can deal with the kind of sleaze that the Republicans put out. And this last episode was a pack of lies.
We should tell you there are 2 other Democrats on the ballot in New Hampshire, but they are not considered major and were not invited to the debate. But 400 of their supporters demonstrated outside the television studio to protest their exclusion.
The man who championed the protest and the fight for civil rights, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., is going to be officially remembered tomorrow. The national holiday commemorating the 63rd anniversary of King's birthday caps off a weekend of observances. Peace and harmony are part of King's legacy. And the holiday takes on added significance as several communities right here in New York City deal with a wave of hate crimes. Those acts of hate prompted Mayor Dinkins to plead for harmony at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine today. The mayor was one of many city and religious leaders calling for an end to all of the hatred we've been seeing. Neighborhood residents are also banding together, hoping to keep their communities from being ripped apart. Carlos Granda has that story.
United we stand, divided we fall.
On a cold Sunday afternoon, about 50 parents and kids gathered at the intersection of Pelham Parkway and White Plains Road in the Bronx to protest racial bias. This is where a 12-year-old boy was attacked and painted white. His mother sent a message to all parents.
Take a hold of your kids. Don't let the streets take a hold of your kids. You take a hold of your kids. The streets will swallow them up.
There have been 19 bias incidents this month. The first on January 7th. A brother and sister were painted with white sneaker polish. Recently at a Brooklyn bus stop, a 15-year-old girl was abducted and raped Her attackers told her they picked her because she was white. Church leaders throughout the city have condemned these acts. At St. Patrick's Cathedral, John Cardinal O'Connor said parents must teach the right values to their children.
It's a fraction of the violence that goes on every single day because we refuse to teach. We absolutely refuse to teach any moral and spiritual and religious values.
Brooklyn Congressman Charles Schumer is proposing tougher prison terms for hate crimes.
And if we can, with this measure, send a message throughout America that bias is bad, bias is wrong, and you're going to pay for bias if you do anything that is a crime of hate, then maybe we can help reverse that.
Representative Schumer's proposal, if it becomes law, would apply to federal offenses. He says this isn't just a New York problem, it's a national problem, and the federal government should take the lead in solving it. Carlos Granda, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Police are reporting yet another hate crime tonight. Officials say that a white man was mugged by a group of black men in the Williamsburg section of Brooklyn early this morning. Police say it is classified as a bias attack because the suspects made racial slurs during that attack.
For much of the metropolitan area tonight, the problem is bitter cold. That makes a trip outdoors a chilling event indeed. Tonight at 9 o'clock, the temperature at Columbus Circle was 20 degrees. But include the wind chill factor, and that brings it down to 10 degrees. Kusuda reports it was enough to get people upset about how the homeless are treated during the winter.
About 24 people pitched tents tonight in Lower Manhattan. They're protesting the plight of the homeless and honoring Dr. Martin Luther King on the eve of the holiday in his name. Protesters say Dr. King would have spent his birthday trying to improve conditions for the homeless.
You got fabulous buildings going up in this town for who? The rich, none for the people who really should have places to stay.
And it has been a tough day for the homeless. When the temperatures get this low, the search for food and shelter becomes critical. On this bitter cold day, Ed Palm found himself booted out of his home inside a Midtown subway station. Transit police apparently told him to go.
We get kicked out, but we come back. And the cops, they all know me anyway.
This homeless man, who did not want to be identified, says he'd rather face the cold than go to a city shelter.
I just stay up. Ride the train most of the time. And go around different places. Try to be more like indoors. I don't get much sleep, though.
At Port Authority, the Manhattan Bowery Association's new Operation Alternative refers homeless people to city and private shelters. Organizers say this weekend has been the busiest one so far. Police found at least 19 homeless people inside the terminal who were referred to shelters by late afternoon. In Manhattan, Kusuda, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
And later on, meteorologist Bill Evans will let us know exactly how cold it's going to get overnight, and he will also tell us if we should be on the lookout for snow in the morning. But first, an update on the transvestite killer who was the subject of a huge manhunt in Rockland County.
And then we've got some rather gruesome new details, if you can believe there's more, about Jeffrey Dahmer, that killer who horrified the nation. We're going to tell you what he did to some of his victims. It may shock you.
And violence in the former Soviet Republic of Georgia. We will tell you why bullets are flying there.
Plus, what's the naked truth about this painting of President George Bush? It's raising eyebrows. Next. The man who's escaped from prison sparked one massive manhunt and is finally behind bars tonight. Frank Vanderveer was arrested in the parking lot of a Paramus shopping mall just last night. The convicted murderer and known transvestite is being held in the Union County Jail, that until he is returned to Connecticut. He escaped from a prison in Summers on New Year's Eve and was the target of a dragnet in Rockland County. Some grim details are emerging tonight about crimes that shocked Milwaukee and shocked the rest of the nation as well. Confessed murderer Jeffrey Dahmer reportedly performed lobotomies on some of his victims while they were drugged. A forensic psychiatrist hired by the prosecution says that Dahmer strangled his victims when his experiments failed. Dahmer was in court on Monday to plead guilty, but he also pleaded insane. The trial to determine his sanity begins 1 week from tomorrow.
In news of the wider world tonight, calls for economic reform can be heard across the Commonwealth of Independent States. Demonstrators in Russia took to the streets to protest soaring food prices there. Since President Boris Yeltsin lifted price controls on goods, other republics have had to raise prices to offset Russian flooding into their territory to buy cheaper goods. The new ruling military council in the former Soviet Republic of Georgia fired shots into the air trying to break up protests in Tbilisi. 3,000 people gathered there demanding the return of the ousted president. The military council took control of the country after the president fled, but demonstrators forced them to retreat.
Around the world tonight, one big blow to the government of Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir, and it could mean early elections there. Two right-wing political parties pulled out of Shamir's government today, wiping out his majority in parliament. They quit at a cabinet meeting to protest the Middle East peace talks. New elections could be held as early as June. Also, a new wave of violence in Algeria has left one soldier dead tonight. The violence prompted the new military leadership to round up Muslim fundamentalists who are trying to gain power in government. And don't get fixated on Saddam Hussein. Now, that's the warning tonight from Defense Secretary Dick Cheney. Cheney said the Iraqi leader will someday be overthrown.
And the naked truth is out about the man who defeated Saddam Hussein, and a lot of people are very, very unhappy. A painting depicting a nude President Bush is on display at a Maryland art gallery. It also shows Dolly Parton, Senator Jesse Helms, Saddam Hussein, and Norman Schwarzkopf in creative states of undress and undress. Dress and undress. The artist who created the work says he was trying to get everyone's attention. Yes, he succeeded, but 5 state lawmakers who had been trying to get the gallery a federal grant have now withdrawn their support. You make the call.
Well, we'll see what it does for their popularity.
Exactly.
Let's turn to sports when we come back.
Anything. The Bulls and the Pistons do battle in Motown. And one of tennis unseated is firmly planted in the quarterfinals in the Australian Open. John McEnroe and his story coming up next.
And then just a bit later on, Bugsy wins big at the Golden Globe Awards. A rundown of the winners just a little bit later.
Well, he had to go down under to get on top, but he's way ahead. Here's Marc Stevens with all the sports.
Sure has so far, Jay. Johnny Mac certainly had a good day down under, a winner of 7 major championships, but never an Australian Open. And now John McEnroe is a quarterfinalist there after playing nearly 5 hours to get past 13th seed Emilio Sanchez. 120 degrees courtside didn't faze Johnny Mac. Opened strong by taking the first 2 sets.
That's just too tough.
Then the match got grueling for both of them. Sanchez coming back wins sets 3 and 4 from Mac. Sanchez got it there, but the final set, the 5th one, decided at 8-6, and it's McEnroe receiving match point. It took 4 hours and 42 minutes for John McEnroe to be the winner. He makes the quarterfinals of the Australian Open. That's if his 32-year-old body is ready in time. Also advancing to the quarters, second-seeded Jim Courier. He was a straight-set winner tonight. On to the NBA now in a clash of champs, past and present. It's the Bulls' title now, and the Pistons aren't happy about it. So your typical Chicago-Detroit basketball rumble in the Motor City, where they want Michael's head. Speaking of heads, just read Dennis Rodman's. Bada bing! You knew what kind of game this was going to be. And Rodman lives up to his words. Those extracurriculars with Bill Cartwright. Hey, the Pistons and the Bulls just don't like each other. Ask Darrell Walker. On the drive here, gets bumped, gives Scotty Williams a shove. They downright hate each other, but Michael Jordan did no shoving. Just super moves like this. Spins around, nails the jumper. Jordan led the defending champs with 34. Final seconds, Chuck Daly's Pistons down 2. After Isaiah Thomas at 1 free throw tells Rodman to be alive for the rebound. I'm going to miss that free throw intentionally. He does, but the Pistons didn't get the bounce, so Chicago holds off their arch enemies 87-85. Now at Phoenix, Evel Knievel, nothing on this guy. The Gorilla cleared 5 cheerleaders easily. Son's Danny Marley says, I can fly too. Marley had 27. Final minute of regulation here, Portland down 1. Cliff Robinson, the flying follow. They went to overtime at 117. In OT, Tom Chambers. Watching from the corner, nice soft touch. A season-high 36 for Chambers, but the final seconds here, OT. Clyde Drexler had a chance to tie, but would you believe in the NBA he'd call for traveling? Suns celebrate 132-128. Also, Milwaukee by 10 over Orlando. Atlanta does in Denver, and it's Boston beating San Antonio 98-89. College basketball now. Villanova travels out of the Big East. Probably wishes they hadn't. Travel down to North Carolina. Raleigh Massimino taking his Cats into the Dean Dome for Dean Smith and company, and Raleigh's boys weren't intimidated early on, but Carolina's just got too much talent. Off the takeaway, Brian Reese will make sure. Tar Heels were up 3 at the half, and then they blew it open. Another takeaway will result in another jam. This time for George Lynch, 76-64 the final. I think Raleigh's regretting making this trip. Big Ten basketball at Ohio State. 4th-ranked Buckeyes are running on Iowa. And on the alley-oop, that's Lawrence Thunderberg. Now, Ohio State's lead just won. 2 minutes to play. Chris Gent follows in his own miss. Ohio State holds on, 85-81. One other score to tell you about. Canisius takes care of Iona by 5. Now, when does splitting the difference between 4 and 3 equal 5? When you're doing baseball contract math. The Reds' Barry Larkin was all set to go to salary arbitration, asking for more than $4 million next year. The Reds' counteroffer was just over $3 million. The two sides compromised. Larkin signs for more than $5 million a year over 5 years. The all-star shortstop would have been a free agent next season. The new deal makes the Reds' Player of the Year the 5th highest-paid player in baseball.
My goal was not to be one of the highest-paid games. If Johnny Bench or Tony Perez or David Concepcion or Pete Rose or any guys were playing in this day and age, I'd be the 50th highest player.
Can't argue with that. College football now, and it's not quite done yet. The All-Star games continue. This time, East-West Shrine game, and there was plenty of down on the sidelines at Stanford, but strictly business on the playing field. All West. Texas A&M's Bucky Richardson here. Looking and goes 24 yards to K-State's Michael Smith. The West bids the East a fun farewell, 14-6. On to golf and talk about a fantastic finish. Bob Hope Classic. 5 players go to sudden death, and then Mr. Hope can thank John Cook for the memories. 4th extra hole. Cook here chips it, and that is an eagle to win it. 188,000 super finish in the Bob Hope Classic. And finally, boxing in Atlantic City, USBA Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship. That's a mouthful. The champ, Bruce Seldon, in the trunks with the yellow trim. That jab there in the 3rd round. Jess Ferguson for a cut above his left eye, and area of concern the rest of the fight. Now, Ferguson did fight on. Seldon was dropping bombs on him because he couldn't see because of the cut. It ended up after 5 rounds. The doctor said that's it, he can't go on, and Bruce Seldon celebrates his USBA Intercontinental title. And that's your Sunday Night Sports. I'm Marc Stevens.
Do not attempt those maneuvers in your own ring at home.
Not
correct?
a good idea.
Okay, Mark, thank you very much.
Well, look what he's got for your ring at home tomorrow, okay? We come back when they check in with Bill Evans. He's got quite an AccuWeather forecast for us.
Yeah, he's going to tell us also how cold it's going to get tonight, and we'll see if we could expect any of the stuff to come our way for the morning rush. Well, you know what some say? Some say the Golden Globe Awards serve as a good indicator for the way Hollywood will vote when Oscar time rolls around. And if that is so, then Warren Beatty can certainly be pleased. The star and co-producer of the hit film Bugsy won the Golden Globe Award for Best Drama. And in the category of Best Dramatic Actor, Nick Nolte walked away a winner for his performance in The Prince of Tides. Among dramatic actresses, Jodie Foster won for her role as the FBI agent in the well-remembered film Silence of the Lambs, and winning the award for Best Director was Oliver Stone for his controversial film JFK. So if that's the barometer, then there you have it.
I don't know. They were all great films. That's a hard choice. Really a hard choice.
Good year for film.
Tomorrow might be a good day to stay in and look at a movie. Are you really going to snow that much?
No, I don't think you're going to need this at all. However, it will be a little bit slippery in the morning on the roads. Usually we just keep this around here over the winters. They've been so mild. You know, we don't get any snow. Usually we just follow the weatherman around with this. Let's get a look at some pictures from Atlanta, Georgia. Don't we have the pictures first from Atlanta? Let's look at Atlanta first and show them the snow, can't we? Is that a no? I guess not. Well, here it is. This is Atlanta. We were going to do this, and I wanted to show everyone 6 inches of snow in Atlanta. Can you believe it? They couldn't believe it there, but now it is so warm, things have already begun to dry out there. But roadways, just about the central and northern portion of the state, just covered with snow from last night to early this morning. We don't have any snow right now, but we have cold weather. It's 17 degrees, 45% humidity, very dry. The barometer's falling. The wind chill outside, when you add the 13-mile-per-hour winds, 6 below. That's how it feels. Temperatures today, 23 and 11. That is exactly 15 degrees below the normal for this time of the year. Overnight, 17 in the city. Flurries in the morning, probably starting about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning. 8 in the outlying areas, very cold. Wind chills will be below 0. And because it is so dry and so cold, there's a big snow to water ratio in the forecast. And that means normally there's about 10 inches of snow to an inch of water. Well, it's probably going to be about 20 inches of snow to an inch of water tomorrow morning. Let's get a look at some satellite pictures tonight. The storm that we're talking about is an Alberta Clipper. It's now beginning to move across the Great Lakes, and look at the clouds beginning to move into the western portion of the state tonight. More of these filtering across. In about an hour or so, we'll begin to get cloudy skies, and snow is already beginning to show up in the western portion of the state and now in western Pennsylvania, like I said, about 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. So here's how much snow we can expect. Probably just a trace to an inch across the city tomorrow out to Westchester County, coastal Connecticut, Long Island Sound, central Long Island southward to the South Shore, and down the Jersey Shore from Staten Island, probably Brooklyn, Queens, southward. Only about a trace tomorrow because it is very dry and not a lot of moisture outside. Here's the Alberta Clipper that we're talking about. It's in the northern Great Lakes, stretching down into the central Mississippi Valley. And this Alberta Clipper will just race across tomorrow, then cold air will drop in behind it, and we'll have another cold day tomorrow. But milder weather is behind the Clipper that will be here for Wednesday and Thursday, and we'll begin to see temperatures moderate somewhat. Cold day tomorrow. Be ready for that 32 and snow in the morning. So the travel, if you are traveling early tomorrow morning, even though it is a light commute day, could be a little bit slippery. Be careful. A dusting of snow to an inch tomorrow morning, then the snow ends by midday, and sunshine tomorrow afternoon. And the exclusive 5-day outlook from AccuWeather, 42 on Wednesday, rain Thursday, and then 38 on Friday. Be careful tomorrow morning. Have a good holiday.
Okay, and keep your shovel by the door just in case.
Have a good week, Bill.
Thanks. Thanks so much for letting us be a part of your weekend. For Bill and Mark, the entire Eyewitness News team, I'm Rolonda Watts.
I'm Jay Scott. Have a great week. Good night.